I'm back, continuing with the judgments. Thank you to all who watched the last video, and please keep watching these videos as they can be really helpful for you. Okay, the sealed judgments are: number 1 is Antichrist, number 2 is war, number 3 is famine, number 4 is death, number 5 is martyrs' prayers, number 6 is great earthquakes, and number 7 is announcement of trumpets. And the 7 trumpets are: a third of vegetation burned, a third of the sea judged, and a third of fresh water judged. Number 4 is a third of the luminaries darkened. Number 5 is increased demonic activity. And number 6 is a third of mankind killed. And number 7 is announcement of bowls. And the 7 bowls are: 1, malignant sores; number 2, sea turned to blood; number 3, fresh waters to blood; number 4, men scorched with fire; number 5, darkness over the kingdom of the beast; number 6, invasion from the east; number 7, greatest earthquake and widespread destruction. So, all those judgments are pretty much just summed up throughout chapter 6 through 15. So if you want to read more about that, you can just go pull out Revelation in your Bible and go read through that. In Revelation 9, it talks more about the trumpets, and it says stuff about the pit and smoke coming out of it, and the sun and air were darkened by it. Then out of the smoke came locusts, and the power was given to them, and told not to hurt the grass, nor anything green, nor any tree, but only the men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. In those days men will seek death, but will not find it. So life is so horrible that they will want to commit suicide, but they are not able to. So pretty much life for unbelievers during this time is going to be really tough, and meanwhile us Christians are going to be partnering up with Jesus. Now I don't know if we'll be doing that, but hopefully. So the locust will have tails and the power to hurt men for 5 months. Revelation 10 is about the little book. It's also about 2 witnesses who are granted the authority to tell the future prophecy for 1,260 or 3.5 years. Whether this will be during the first half or second half of the tribulation is not stated, though the first half seems way more likely. In verses chapter 11, 4 through 6, and it talks about there are 2 olive trees and 2 lampstands that stand before the Lord of the earth, and if anyone wants to harm them, fire flows out of their mouths and devours their enemy. So if anyone wants to harm them, he must be killed in this way. These have the power to kill or to shut up the sky so that rain will not fall during the days of their prophecy, and they have power over the waters to turn them into blood and to strike the earth with every plague as often as they desire. Hang on a second. Verses 11 through 7 in chapter 11, or 7, is when they have finished their testimony, the beast comes up out of the abyss, and will make war with them, and overcome them, and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city, which mystically is called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified. Those from the peoples and tribes and tongues of all nations will look at their dead bodies for 3.5 days, and will not permit their dead bodies to be laid in a tomb. And those who dwell on the earth will rejoice over them and celebrate, and they will send gifts to one another, because these 2 prophets tormented those who dwell on the earth. But after 3.5 days, the breath of life from God came into them, and they stood on their feet, and great fear fell upon those who were watching them. And they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here." Then they went up into the heaven in the cloud, and their enemies watched them. And in that hour there was a great earthquake, and 1/10 of the city fell. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the rest were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. Um, Revelation 12 is the War on Earth Phase 1. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars, and she was with a child. And she cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads were 7 diadems, and his tail swept away a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour her child. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God and to his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God, so that there she would be nourished for 1,260 days. The next part is the war in heaven. And there was a war in heaven, Michael and his angels waging war with the dragon and his angels waged war. And they were not strong enough, and there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of the old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, Now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren has been thrown down, he who accuses them before our God day and night, and they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their testimony. And they did not love their life even when faced with death. For this reason, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he has only a short time. I'm going to stop this video and then continue on with another one straight from where I'm at. So if you viewed this video, thank you so much for viewing these videos.